You have the power of choice.
Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ.
Welcome to Life Today Live. I'm Randy Robinson, and why am I here? I know some of you probably wonder that on a daily basis, but I don't mean it that way. I'm talking about this whole idea of why we're here. It's one of the big questions of life. What am I doing on this earth? What is my purpose? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, and I've got a couple of experts on this. People have actually done some research. We'll talk about some of the background, but we're going to get into finding your purpose. I mean, how do you do that? It's interesting because, during this COVID time, and we're still seeing this going on. I saw a report. I don't remember if it was September or October, but something like 4.4 million people quit their jobs. And I think the disruption in life has really caused a lot of people to go, why do I do what I do on a daily basis? Is it really that rewarding? Is this really why I'm here? And I think that can be healthy, actually. So encourage you to be a part of the conversation. Hello, Judy. My Thanksgiving was wonderful. I hope whatever you call it in Canada was wonderful too. But it's great to have everybody back. It's good to be back after the holidays. This is the book that is out now. It's called You on Purpose, and it is written by a couple of senior fellows at the Barna Group, which means they know their research. Dr. Stephanie Shackelford, who is also a career coach, as well as Bill Denzel, who is a researcher and writer. And both of them are with me here. It's great to have you. Dr. Shackelford, great to have you on Life Today Live.
Oh, so glad to be here.
And Bill, pop in here. It's good to have you. Say something and Zoom will pull you up.
Thanks, Randy. It's great to be here. I agree. It's a big topic, and we're trying to help people kind of navigate through it. So
excellent. So let's give people a little bit of the background, because you guys don't just go, hey, this is a good topic, let's just start writing on it. You guys are big time researchers at the Barna Group. So what did you do to start to form the ideas that are in this book? Either one of you, pick it up.
Well, Barna.
Yeah, why don't you start, Bill?
Okay, great. Barna's calling. Let's start with Barna, who we did the research under their kind of umbrella. Their calling in the world is to be the tribe of Issachar. From First Chronicles 12, Issachar was the tribe that served King David by knowing the times and knowing what to do, and that's Barna's calling. And so, we took that and said, how can we apply that to people? Because good research isn't really all about facts and data. It's more about people and understanding their behavior. And so this project was a research project that is studying the topic of you and your life. So that was our goal. And so, so we dove in, and maybe Steph you can tell them a little bit more about the research that we did.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Sure. So
what do you do to figure out what people's purpose in life? What kind of questions are on that survey?
Yeah, so we started this project several years ago. Barna kind of kicked off their vocation project, and we interviewed thousands of adults across the country, so 18 and up, and really wanted to understand what is their experience with work like? What are the emotions that they are feeling at work? What are the questions that they have? And what are their thoughts around calling? How are they viewing their work? And so we collected all that data. In addition, we also interviewed a lot of people about calling. So people who are currently living their calling, how did they get there? As well as career coaches and other professionals in this space. How do they advise people in this area? And so took all of that and integrated those findings into the book.
What exactly did you find? I'm really curious. Did you conclude this research prior to COVID?
We did, yes. Okay. So the book was written, we were writing the book while COVID was going on, but the research was before COVID. And so we found a number of different things, but one main thing I'll just say is that only 1 in 10 of all working adults are purpose-oriented in their work. And so that's just 11%, which is a very small number. We were surprised to find that a lot of us are not feeling any purpose in our work.
That's interesting.
And I think, Yeah,
go ahead, Bill.
Oh, I was going to say, one of the things I found most fascinating was in the qualitative research that we did, which was the interviews. with people that are highly successful in their field, I think one of the most fascinating things was that they really, most of them had no plan, like when they started out, for where they were going to end up. So really, it was a process that, looking back on it, they could see how it all happened and how it played out and how God led them from the beginning to where they were today, which was like, again, the leading people in their field. But they didn't have this master plan. And that was one of the great things that I felt like took so much pressure off of, young people starting out today, or feel like they need to have all the answers going into it and know exactly where they're going to get. And even colleges are like forcing them to like declare their majors right when they start, first year, which my son has just gone through that experience. And it's really hard because, when you're 17, just graduating from high school, 18, it's like you have no idea where you might have a general direction. And then what we wanted to do was let people know that's all they really need is a general direction of kind of how am I oriented, how am I wired, what are the things that kind of intrigue me and get my heart racing. And that's kind of what you need to focus on. And then just head in a general direction. You don't have to have all the answers. So because what we learned from the research was that the people that really succeeded in their field didn't have all the answers when they started out.
Yeah, well, that's good to know because, I'm doing exactly what I told myself I would not do, which was work at my dad's ministry, just because it was not about ministry or not about my dad. I think it's just the independent, college kid being like, I want to do my own thing. And God says, yeah, why don't you do my thing? And it's good. Anyway, I'm curious about the people that you talk to. And either one of you picked this up. But you mentioned they saw God working through. Did you talk only to Christians? And also, what was sort of the age range?
So the age range was, for the large survey we did, was 18 and up. The majority of people that we interviewed were, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, it really spanned the decades. And we interviewed, the survey was for Christians and non-Christians. We mainly interviewed Christians to understand their calling in relation to also their faith. But we also did hear from some career coaches and other professionals who were not Christians to understand their perspective.
And that's interesting because especially when you use the word calling, that implies some sort of spiritual motivation. To me, it does, and maybe I'm wrong. But a lot of times you what you think in your 20s and what you think in your 60s are entirely different things. What did you find when you started getting into the idea of not just a vocation or a skill, but an actual calling? Bill, I'm curious.
Well, that's a great point, because the word calling in and of itself, it's used just across our entire culture. You hear it everywhere, people talking about it, ads talking about it. But really when you step back, the idea of calling implies a caller, right? And that's one of the things that that people don't quite realize. But if we can make that connection and help them understand, if you really want to understand your calling, and that you need to realize what you're talking about, and that there's a caller that created you for a purpose, that kind of built those clues into your life. And if you can just start to step back, and the first step in the process is to getting close to that caller step, spending time daily in quiet, sitting and trying to hear the caller and where he's calling you to. And so that will help you to get to understand the clues that he's built into your life. And so, this book as well, is the whole point of it is to help you understand all the clues that are in your life. Do this research project on you to understand what he's built into your life that will help point you in a certain direction. And whether whether you're a young person just starting out, or if you're, in midlife, facing a big transition, or realizing that I really hate my dumb job that I'm doing every day, or you're forced to because you got laid off from that dumb job that you didn't like in the first place. And now you got to figure out, what am I going to do? It's the same question and the same process, whether we're just starting out or whether we're in midlife. And so, yeah, that's I think that's what we're trying to help people understand, is that you can get a glimpse of those clues and then start heading in that direction.
And I just want to jump in and define, or how we define calling too, is we say it's the specific activities that God has designed for you that will result in service or benefit to others. So kind of embedded in that definition is that we are designed in this specific way by God, and that how we use those giftings and how we're wired will serve others and benefit others. And I think this is a big thing we saw in the research, is that 4 out of 5 people believe their primary aim in life is to pursue happiness. And we really counter this, that the pursuit of purpose is so much more fulfilling. And so when you even go back to that definition of what are we here for, we're not here for our own happiness. We're here to live into who God has designed us to be in service to his kingdom. And ultimately what we found in our research is that when you pursue purpose instead of happiness, you're more likely to get that satisfaction you really enjoy. But so often we are just looking to our own happiness and self-fulfillment, and those things just fall so flat because they are so circumstantial and just based on our own subjective feelings in the moment.
You know, I think that is a huge point, because sort of the world's economy measures, purpose, maybe even fulfillment as money, recognition, climbing the ladder, being the best in your field. But you're saying that in God's economy, it's serving others, which is scriptural. Anybody that knows the scripture, and improving life for others. Those are so almost at times diametrically opposed. Now, I'm not saying you can't have both. You can. It just seems like if you're pursuing one, you get neither in the world's system. But if you pursue sort of God's, you're going to at least get what God has for you, and maybe all these things will be added to you. I don't know. Scriptures keep coming to mind. What's the difference in people? Do you think that understand that and pursue sort of the God's idea of purpose versus people that don't? Because I can look in the world and you see some of the most successful people in the world. They're rich, they're famous, they're at the top of their game, and they're miserable. And I think it's just that. Do you see a really striking difference between people that understand one and pursue one versus everybody else?
Well, one of the things that we found in the research over the years is that, and at risk of sounding like those millennials,
Watch it, Bill. Watch it, Bill. I'm one of those.
It's not millennials. It's really, it's a generational thing, and you can kind of see it. It's just how the world has shaped culture and culture's thinking. Is that young people today believe that they will be famous by a certain age. This is kind of like one of their driving things. Fame is a driving motivation, And I think one of the refreshing things that you see is as people get older, we're asking what's the difference? What do you see? As people get older, the pressure starts coming off and they realize, you know what? It's more about the ordinary things. It's about the people that are around me right now. It's about the place that I find myself in. And these are the things that we want young people to understand. This is where God has placed you, and the people he's put you among, the times that you're living in. All these things are factors. And not only that, but also how you've been designed personally. These are factors that you need to, when you kind of put all those things together, that's how you understand your calling. And that's where you're going to find satisfaction in life, is by, seek the ordinary and find contentment kind of where you are. It's hard to kind of counter the tide of culture and all those messages that go, that we see. And it's not just young people. I think people entering their career they have now these models of like Mark Zuckerberg, young people that just skyrocketed to like success and fame. And so then they say, oh, that's possible, right? Before it was like, okay, you enter your career as an apprentice and you like go through the process and you eventually rise and you become a master at your craft. But now they see these people that just seemingly are masters overnight. And while they're still in their early 20s, and it's like, well, that should be me too. You see YouTube stars.
Right.
And so it's very hard to counter all that. It's like, that should be me. And so, if all I got to do is put my head down and like, I'm going to create like this, well, maybe that's not God's plan for you. I think the hard thing is like countering that and helping them to understand where satisfaction really comes. That's the big thing. And like you mentioned, if you can help people to get a taste of what it actually feels like to serve people and like how happy you are when you actually invest your life in serving others, that's the thing that if we can, as a culture, and that's really what the church, we hope can, step up and provide opportunities for people to experience that and experience that when you serve, the satisfaction that arises in your heart, you find meaning, you find the calling, and you find the thing that you were meant to do because you realize that's where happiness comes from.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from fame and money. So.
Yeah. Okay. So Stephanie, I want to ask you about this millennial thing, but I want to show people real quick the book. This is You on Purpose. You can get it now, and we're going to get into the clues to help you find your purpose here in a minute, but I want to show you the website as well. This is, I'll put it in the chat, youonpurposecoaches.com. Great resources, and you'll find both Bill Denzel there and Dr. Stephanie Shackelford there. And so some great resources for you, some places to go. But okay, so Stephanie, you said careful because you are a millennial, and Bill used this phrase, right? YouTube stars, and my kid, I got 4 kids all in their 20s, from 22 to 28, right? Okay, I think that's right. This phrase YouTube stars rolls off their lips naturally, and I know probably if Bill's like me, it's like, yeah, really, but it's a real thing because it's brought, identity, it's brought money, it's brought fame, and it's put people on a path. I mean, it is a real thing, and I think the gap there is just one of almost of technology. I didn't grow up with this, my kids, when they get on me, I say, no, my generation built the internet. You're welcome, right? But I'm curious, as someone closer to generations that grew up with the technology, how has that both helped and hurt people find their purpose in life? Because like any tool, I can see it going either way. What's your take on that, Stephanie?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I have 2 observations. One is technology has exposed us to such a wide variety of careers, which can be very freeing. And we all of a sudden have all these choices of different things we could be or do, ways we could work, which, like I said, is freeing. And yet also what we found in the research is that the more choices we have, that can be very overwhelming. It can lead to over-choice and paralysis. So I'm seeing that a lot, not only through our surveys that we did, but also through my coaching practice, is people come to me and they just feel so stuck because they could do 5 different things that would take them to 5 different places around the world, and they don't know where to go in their career. And so they're having this over-choice paralysis, a lot of because of what we have available with the internet and technology. Secondly is this really high value that younger generations place on authenticity. And so like you mentioned YouTube, and that can present what seems to be this very, authentic, it looks authentic of this is who someone really is. They're just showing their life. And that is very appealing. And we see this also, again, in my coaching practice and also in our research, is that this can lead people to feel stuck in their careers as well, because they want to just do something that is so wholly authentic to them. One of our findings was that 2/3 of people believe there's one best fit job out there for them. Well, that is not good news to me if there's only one job waiting for you.
No.
Instead, we really need to be a little more adaptable and also recognize that just as we're going to change, our callings can change over time. Life is not static, and neither is our calling. And so I think both of those things we're seeing in the younger generations of the choices available and the desire to have something that feels so authentic to them, and yet we might be defining that in not as helpful of ways.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, so let's get into the clues of your calling, because these are real practical things. Bill, what sort of a starting place do you think for people? What do we need to know about how to get in get out of our jobs that we don't like, get into our calling that we will eventually find that fulfillment?
Yeah, we take this to kind of create a strategy for like discovering those clues that are all around you. We think of it in terms of 3 circles, right, which overlap to create a Venn diagram, right? And the first of those circles is yourself, right? So you understand, the first thing you want to understand and dig into is who you are. So we look at your passions, the things that you kind of are naturally drawn towards, your propensities, the things that you're good at and other people tell you you're good at. Mm-hmm. And then your pain too, because I think the tough stuff that you go through also shapes who you are. Then the second circle is your context. And that's like where you are, right? It's the people that you've been put among, the place that you've been placed intentionally. We believe it's all intentional by a creator that had a plan for you in mind when you were born. And so those things, where you are, your context, is another big area of clues. Like, because what's needed in your geographical, where you find yourself, what's needed in the town that you find yourself, what do the people around you need, and how can you serve them? And then the third circle is your times. It's kind of when you are, right? Understanding when you were born in history and what this moment in history kind of provides for you to pursue and to kind of be and do, right? I mean, you think about Bill Gates discovering his calling, or Steve Jobs, right? That it only could have happened in a certain point of history for them to kind of live out, to do what they did in the world. So we believe that those things, yourself, your context, and your times, there's no accident there. They all kind of overlap on purpose. And that's where, you discover, like, in that area of overlap where those yourself, your context, and your times, that's where your options are, the things that it seems to make sense for you to pursue, because these are possibilities for you. And that in our process, then that you kind of choose from those options that are there. And the thing is, we want to try to take the pressure off of this process. And there's so much pressure kind of like on people to figure out, like, what am I supposed to do in the world? We want to make this a fun process, really. And so when you look at those options, which ones of those really sound appealing to you? Which ones sound fun? Which ones get your heart racing? It's like, it doesn't have to be something heavy where it's like, I should do this. You should start from a point of joy and desire and the things that really spark your heart and get you interested. And so that's how you start picking those options. So you create a short list out of those options that are available to you. And then you start pursuing those in a real simple and light way with low risk experiments, trying them out, volunteering in the fields and those jobs or those types of activities that you find interesting, doing informational interviews, talking to people that are already doing that type of work. Really low risk activities that help you learn more about those fields. And then, so it's that action that then gets you going, because once you take those small steps and just by exploring it, then you start saying, oh yeah, actually this is something that resonates with me and it clicks and I feel good about pursuing this. Because, you might like think that, oh, the life of a lawyer is great because they drive really cool cars, But when you actually explore it and talk to lawyers about what they do every day, or go in, intern at a law office, you may realize that's not for me. Or you may think, yeah, this is perfect, exactly how I was designed. Kind of, there's opportunity for me to do it, and there's a need right now, so I'm going to pursue it. So that's kind of how the process that we try to take people through in this book.
That's interesting, and I actually literally did that because I don't know. I think I watched too many movies with lawyers and thought, yeah, I want to be that guy that stands in front of the jury and makes the case and says you can't handle the truth and things like that. And then I helped a friend of mine study for the MCAT. And I did. I mean, I got the concepts, but I was like, this is very book heavy, and not for me. So those are very practical, and that's good advice to just dip your toes in, not with a big full commitment, not necessarily quitting your job so you don't have that. You have to rush into something. But find out what it's like over there, really, not just the glamour, what you think it looks like, but what it is. I'm assuming that these techniques will work whether you're 21 or 61.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, and that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious, which of you has been kind of watching over the last year and a half? Because this has been kind of crazy when you look at people's job situations and what's gone on during COVID. Either of you have any kind of hot take on that?
Well, I'll jump in on that because it's fascinating. I actually, right now I'm working at LinkedIn, producing LinkedIn learning courses that, and they're calling it there the Great Reshuffle, right? So it's this time where everybody's stepping back and figuring. And LinkedIn is booming, right? Because they connect people with opportunity, around. And so while all these industries are going down, LinkedIn has just been blowing up during during quarantine. And in fact, we're talking like thousands of people. They're helping thousands of people every day find new jobs. And this is not an ad for LinkedIn, so I'm sorry.
Right. No.
But the point is that there's there's a lot of activity happening around exactly what you're describing. Everybody is, because of all the changes that are happening, they're finding that there's new opportunities that are out there that they didn't see before. And maybe they've been forced to, like myself. I was at the beginning of COVID, I was working at a major Christian nonprofit that if I told you the name, you would know it. But I was laid off at the beginning of COVID because giving dried up. And they cut a third of the staff, and I had to step back and say, okay, now what? So I've lived through this whole process, and they say that we write the books that we need to read. And that's really been literally true for me, because it was great because now that, as Stephanie and I worked through creating this book, I found enough time since I was laid off, didn't have a job anymore, that then writing this book with Stephanie became my full-time job. And that was one of the bright spots in being laid off. So, and finding myself in need of figuring this stuff out we had done all the research, and here it was, and I was just able to dig into it and really take myself through this process, and in turn, create a guide for others to go through the process as well.
I think that's very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, you're not just theory. You're living it. So that's good. Stephanie, bottom line this for us as we go out today. What do you want people to achieve, to accomplish, to maybe understand when they do this process, this you on purpose sort of process? Where do you want them to land? How's it going to benefit them?
Our desire through this is that people reading this would just come more alive to who God has created them to be, and to just be, I guess, re-energized to really find their place in the world where they can use their talents and their creativity and their energy to contribute to the world in whatever way that looks like. And so I think ultimately through this process, we not only come to understand ourselves, but we come to understand our Creator at a deeper level. And I think that's the ultimate purpose of it.
Yeah, great. Bill, anything you want to add to that?
No, that's a great summary. We just need to be awake to what's happening around us right now, and that's what the research process into yourself and what your Creator has in mind for you is all about. Yeah. God's using all the things around you, people, the place, to direct your path, and we just need to be aware of that and focus on the future, right? And I take that back. Really focus on like this present moment that we're living in, right? Because if we get too wrapped up in what's ahead, then we're missing out on what's happening in our life right now. Or if we get too wrapped up in what's been in the past, then we're missing out on life right now. And so it's really just, I think, the focus is finding joy in the present moment, walking through this path step by step, taking small steps of obedience, listening to our Creator, calling us down the path. Because life is a long journey and God is writing a long story with your life. And so if we can just understand that and be at peace with taking the process slowly and heading in the general direction that He's calling you, and knowing that if you step forward in obedience, that you'll arrive at your calling.
Yep. That's good. That's good. Some of you guys need to hear that today. So this one's for you. If you know anybody else that needs to hear that, because it's been crazy and a lot of change. And hit share, by the way. Give that to somebody. This is a gift to somebody. And if you want to go deeper into this, pick up the book, You on Purpose. Appreciate both of you guys, all your time, insight, research, expertise, and appreciate you guys hanging out and watching. We got more great interviews for you all this week. So follow, subscribe, like, do all those fun things, and join us again next time here on Life Today Live.
To choose to bend our necks, to choose to bend our necks, and to choose to learn. It is always possible to do the will of God. Nobody can prevent you from doing the will of God.